Hello and welcome to this Tuesday's Andy's Chomping at the Bit for November 29th, 2022. Um, Today I'm going to talk a little bit about self-esteem. It's one that a lot of people struggle with. A lot of people deny struggling with it, myself included at times. Um, but it is a big issue. A lot of it put on with society, and there's all these different intangibles and variables that cause us to sometimes have self-esteem issues. Um, but even celebrities have it. I was watching a documentary about 2 months ago on Chris Farley. Turns out that he had self-esteem issues. He was very self-conscious about his appearance. In fact, his weight in particular. Um, he he grew up. His dad was really heavy, and when he grew up, his dad would come home with like a new suit and ask everyone how he looked. And he was a really big guy, so obviously he didn't look that good. Let's be honest. And he knew that too. But him and his brothers, they always told him, "Hey, you look great, Dad." Because it made him feel good. They didn't want to put him down. They didn't want to make him feel bad. All that stuff. But that had an effect on him when he got older. And for instance, when he was on SNL, he did a famous skit. A lot of you guys have seen. It's actually one of my favorites, unfortunately. Um, it's the Chippendales skit he does with Patrick Swayze, where he dances for an audition for to be a Chippendales dancer. Where he rips off his shirt and he goes crazy. And he's actually a really good dancer if you watch it. I thought he was pretty impressive personally. Um, well, that being said, um, he didn't want to do it originally. Uh, he felt that people wouldn't be laughing for the right reasons. They thought they wouldn't be laughing because he was funny. They'd be laughing because he was fat. Um, and there's some truth to that if you think about it. I mean, if he was skinny, it wouldn't have been as funny. Let's be realistic. Um, it's not something to be proud of in that situation. But that was an issue for him. It was his image. He didn't think that he didn't think that he was um, beyond comedy. He didn't think that he was that valuable. And even comedy, he loved making people laugh, but uh, he felt like people were just saying that it's funny to be nice to him because, like I said, that's what they do with his father. When to make him feel good, they didn't want him to feel bad, so he kind of had that in the back of his head that they're just saying this to make me feel good, kind of thing. Um, but that's Chris Farley's situation. I bring that up because he did eventually because of drugs and stuff, end up dying from overdose, and a lot of the usage and stuff did come from the reason behind it. It was merely a side effect from self-esteem issues. Um, and I have self-esteem issues myself. Um, this affected me as a performer quite a bit actually. Um, it's weird because I do great in front of large crowds. It's kind of backwards from a lot of people. A lot of people, the bigger the crowd, the more nervous they get. I'm the other way around. You put me in front of 10 people, I am freaking out. I'll be honest with you. In my head, I'm freaking out. Put me in front of 1,000 people, I'm chill. Like, I am as comfortable as it gets. The bigger the crowd, the more relaxed I am, the more comfortable I am, the better I do. And I think the reason behind this is because if you get 10% of the crowd of 1,000 that approve, you got 100 people that like you. That's pretty good. You got 100 people. Who cares about the other 900? You got 100 people liking your stuff. 10% of, say, 10 people, now you only got one person that approves of what you're doing. So, it's not quite as uplifting. Of course, that one person is just as important. Um, but the psychology behind it's always bothered me. Um, but as far as performing, also like compliments, um, I always felt I was unworthy of them. I don't know why. Like I do know why now, but at the time I didn't know why. Um, I was sometimes, not always, but sometimes I was um, humble and modest to a fault. Um, but a lot of time I covered it up too. Um, I'd cover it up with humor. I did that a lot. I still do that a lot. I joke about my weight a lot because um, it is a sensitive spot, but I can cover it up with humor and kind of gets me by, for the next few moments. Um, or sometimes I'd fake confidence, and oftentimes I'd fake arrogance as well. Kind of that whole idea: fake it until you make it. Um, But it didn't, I'll be realistic, it didn't always work, It, actually, it never worked. Um, and it's weird feeling bad about getting a compliment. That's completely backwards of what you should feel. Um, it's what happened though, and kind of the origins. I really, through counseling and stuff like that, and all this other therapy and just self reflection, I was able to kind of find some of the origins behind that mentality, that thought process. Um, and the next part here is nothing against anyone in particular. I'm just merely stating facts from the past. It's not meant to cause the blame or anything like that on anyone. It's just what happened in the past. It stays in the past, but it's the reality of what happened. So I'm not holding it against anyone. It's just the outcome. Um, Growing up, oftentimes I was told to stop showing off. Don't show off doing this. Um, when I expressed myself in front of people, it was oftentimes through my parents, it was looked at as kind of like showing off as arrogant, cocky. The whole self, want to be center of attention was a bad thing in my family for some reason. And to a point, sometimes it is bad, but any kind of public entertainment was, at least at the younger age, was looked at as a very negative thing. And oftentimes I wasn't just told to don't show off by my parents or stop showing off. They would do it publicly to me. So they said it's not holding against them, it's in the past. But it did have an effect on me as far as self-esteem, self-confidence, a lot of that. And in my family, can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on the level. We tend to we were raised to dislike the publicly arrogant or overly confident celebs, whether it be singers, entertainers, like actors, or even athletes. In fact, this is one of the main reasons my parents or my family dislikes the University of Michigan, because they are arrogant. Um, and some of it you can't really argue with. I mean, their fight song's "Hail to the Victors." That is a pretty arrogant song in itself. Um, but I'm not going to go there into the rivalry or anything like that. They're still a great school for academics. I just don't like their athletics. Um, that's completely off topic. But it also goes to entertainers. Or other athletes. They hated Muhammad Ali. Can you imagine that they hated Muhammad Ali because they thought he was arrogant? They don't like most boxers. They didn't like. It was just because of the personality. They didn't like a lot of. They didn't like Herb Brooks, the coach for Minnesota that won, the miracle game against the Soviets and won the gold medal in 1980 Olympics. They didn't like him because they thought he was a hotshot, arrogant person, and it was a fluke that they won. Anyway, that's just the example. So being raised in a way that looks down on people that take pride in themselves to a high level publicly. It's fine if you do it behind closed doors, but you do it publicly, and it was kind of frowned. It was very frowned upon, to be honest. So, and then also, even when I played sports no matter what I did, if it was a team environment or a group activity, or around others for that matter, I was taught that true leaders credit others for success, but it will take full blame for failure. And that's not entirely true. That's kind of a misleading thought. Yes, you want to share success, but don't just give success to everyone else. You got to embrace that you had part of it too, and that's something I'm just not learning. And also, as far as failure, yeah, you take blame, but you got to take part of blame. You don't take the full blame. You're not responsible for everything. If you lost a hockey game, yeah, I might have given up the last goal, but there was 5 other people on the ice that could have helped out. Yeah, I did my part wrong. You win as a team, you lose as a team. Leadership isn't about giving all the success to your teammates or other people and then taking the full blame. That's not leadership. That's a very dangerous thought process. But it's part of how it made me to the way I am. And I was always told when I did something, I felt really good about it. And this isn't just my family. This was partially my family. But I heard this from a lot of people. when I did really well and I was really, on cloud nine, feeling great, and I'd hear the comment, "Don't let it get to your head," or "You're not there yet." And those are good to a point, but when you hear them over and over and over again in different ways for the little successes you get, it eventually kind of makes you, when you hear that, it makes you feel unworthy for getting credit, for getting compliments. And you shouldn't feel bad about it. You should be okay with taking compliments. But when you hear people say, "Don't let it get to your head," it makes you feel guilty for being complimented. I said, I'm not holding against anyone in the past. But that is something I'm going to be conscious of moving forward when talking to other people. I'm never going to tell someone to don't let it get to your head unless they go overboard. Then I might say it. But I'd never discourage someone from taking a compliment and taking pride in a compliment. After learning that a little bit, kind of the idea behind it and how it's affected me. But it also, as a musician, the whole thing of self-confidence and how it all has affected me, it really affected me as far as selling myself or selling my brand as a singer-songwriter. Even when I released my album back in 2012, this idea of charging friends and family for something I created, for something I'm making a career out of, it was, I don't know, it was looked at as wrong. And that's not from outside people. That's literally from up here in my head. I felt like it was wrong to ask friends and family to pay for a CD that I made, that I spent a lot of money on making, and that I was now using to pursue a career in the music industry. I felt guilty for asking people to support me in my career. It's not like I was hustling or stealing from anyone. In fact, that was probably the most honest way of making money that involved friends and family. But I for some reason felt bad for it. It was, I don't know. It was a very it was one of many things that hurt me as far as the whole selling myself as a singer-songwriter, because I was like I said, I felt guilty charging friends and family. And then when I promoted talent to businesses or venues trying to get gigs, they'd ask me, "So you're a singer?" Yeah. "Are you any good?" "Yeah, pretty good." Tell you what, no one wants to hire a performer that's pretty good. And when they hear pretty good, it's all subjective. What are you comparing yourself to? If I'm comparing myself to Elton John, pretty good might be all right. That's pretty good. If I'm comparing myself to the guy down the street, I'm selling myself short quite a bit. That, to be honest, you're not going to get gigs if you're in a small town and you're not even taking credit for being good at that level. No one's going to pay to, or no one's going to have you perform there. They haven't heard you yet. They just are assuming that you're pretty good in that level based on your word, and they're not going to want to listen if they don't think it's worth their time. So that hurt. And even just talking to people in the music industry, talking to AR reps, managers, possible promoters, all kinds of people like that, even other musicians. I don't know, for some reason I felt weird promoting my value. Like I was early on in my career, so I felt it was not justified. I felt that if I didn't have the money to back up the music, it was a sign of lack of ability, a lack of value. And even just talking to people that didn't know I performed, giving them the opportunity to understand that I could sing. I felt self-centered or cocky just by letting people know about it. Not even singing, just merely letting someone know that didn't know I could sing that I was a singer-songwriter. Not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, I felt guilty for that, or I don't know, I felt like it just wasn't right. So obviously, self-esteem had affected me quite a bit in my career as far as being a singer-songwriter. But it affected me in personal life too. One of the big things I've had trouble as far as everything is my appearance. A lot of it has, some of it's been recent, more or less. Some of it has been always a lingering thing. Like, for instance, my weight. I'm a big guy, as you can see. Um, that's something I can change. That's something I'm working on changing, actually. So that one doesn't bother me too much because I have control over that a little bit. Um, One that used to bother me a lot more than it does now. Um, Not being considered tall. Tall is obviously subjective. Um, I don't need to be tall. That's out of my control anyway. I really don't care about that one. But it used to bother me a lot. Go back to middle school, high school. Not being tall was something that really did appear to bother me. I don't think I made it too public about it, but it was something that ate me up pretty bad. Then the next one, it's really kind of a self-judging thing. I never really got it directly. Um, I never got it directly from anyone. I don't think. Um, but something I just um, kind of self-assumed. I don't know. My just general appearance. I always felt I looked goofy for some reason, um, or at least not attractive. I always felt that. I mean, like I said, that's what I'm still working on dealing with. It's easy to say to myself something, but actually believing what you're saying. I mean, like I said, fake it till you make it isn't necessarily a successful thing. So I am still working on that one. Like I said, it's just a lot of it's in my head. I am aware of that. A lot of everything's in my head. Um, but accepting it's kind of the point where I'm at right now. But applying it as far as my life goes, that's still quite a bit of work. Also, I used to also, especially when I was in high school and earlier, even after high school, even to this day, I guess is an issue sometimes. Um, I get perceived as lazy. A lot of that is because people don't understand my mental background, and that's understandable if they don't know that. I have bipolar depression, um, so especially when I'm not medicated or when the medication's not working at its greatest, um, that's kind of a side effect to an extent. Um, you don't want to get out of bed. You just literally, um, this is not an exaggeration. You literally just feel no motivation to do anything. You know you're supposed to. You know you. It could be the day before you go on a trip of a lifetime that you've always wanted to go on. And you go to bed that night and you feel great about it. You're so excited. You have the alarm clock set nice and early. You got everything packed. Wake up the next morning and you don't want to do it. You don't want to get out of bed. You don't feel like it. You don't feel like taking a shower. I mean, you might get up to go to the bathroom and to get something to eat, but then you're going right back to bed. Um, I wish it wasn't the case. Like I said, a lot of that's medication based. Um, with medication, that does make a difference. Um, you don't want to interact with people. You don't want to interact with your best friends. I can't tell you how many times growing up where I had my best friend come over and ask if I wanted to go out and play or ride bikes or something, and I'd instead choose to sit on the couch and sleep or sleep in my bedroom or do anything but interact with my best friend of all things, and I had nothing better to do. It was literally just the effects of, bipolar depression. Um, and like I said, the laziness carried over, and even in high school, I got the reputation of being lazy, not necessarily from classmates, maybe from classmates. I don't know. I haven't asked any of them. But no, from like, at least from some of the staff. One, I didn't do my homework a lot in high school. I rarely did my homework in high school. And that was because I didn't apply myself a lot. But really, homework never worked for me at any level. In fact, when I went to college, every semester, I was on the dean's list. Yeah, I applied myself. That was a big part of it. But I found out that if I had to spend, say, 2 hours on homework every day, that's on the light side being realistic. If I had to spend 2 hours doing homework every day, and like I did in high school, I'd struggle. But if I spent 1 hour a day studying, and I didn't do any homework, like in college, straight A's. It's amazing how that works, Um, For me personally, it's not for everyone, obviously. Some people do better with homework. Um, but there's no cookie cutter solution for everyone. So the fact that my academic success was so heavily judged on homework, it hurt. But anyway, yeah, I graduated with honors. So lazy didn't really carry over for that. And even employers, I always had great work ethic. All my employers said that. Struggled to keep a job. Like I said, a lot of that had to do with self-esteem. Some of it had to do with bipolar. But it gave me the reputation of being lazy. And eventually I started believing it. That's where it caused problems in my head. It carried over to relationships even as far as the low self-esteem. Um, I still do it, unfortunately. Working on it. I overanalyze everything. Not just some things, everything. I'm trying to think 2 steps ahead before I even get to somewhere, not knowing the variables. So I have a plan A, B, C, D, E, all the way down the line. Just trying to figure out in my head everything. And overanalyzing things really gets you spun around going the wrong direction. Gives you self-doubt, all kinds of stuff like that. And then when I did go on a date with people, I had the conflicting message. I had the be myself, and I had the get to know them. Problem is, get to know them is more serious. Be myself is obviously more goofy and comedic and just random as far as ideas, which personally I like myself better. But I was told, I almost feel like an interview every time I went on a date because you got to get to know them, they got to get to know you. And when I was thinking, I wasn't thinking personality. Unfortunately, I was thinking about interests. Unfortunately, which is important. But no, I just wasn't myself at dates. It was, I don't know. That's something that I was recently brought to my attention. So, and to be honest, another thing that's kind of bit me in the butt with self-esteem is that fear of rejection. When you don't have the confidence, and you figure because of overanalyzing that you're probably going to get a no or whatever. The things about rejection that bothered me, and I'm not afraid to admit that right now at this point. Yes, fear of rejection is a big part of my struggles, because the immediate pain is always bad. More so the awkwardness from that point on with the person. So if they were a friend, like you don't want to ruin a friendship, and a lot of times it does. Even if you don't say anything, it ruins the friendship because now it's like that in your head you're self-destructing on the way before you even bring it up. So it just causes a lot of problems, unfortunately for me. And so I found that it's easier for me to express myself through music. And so over the years I wrote probably like 50 love songs. 20 of them are for actually someone in particular over those years. So out of those 20 people, 0 I've actually heard a song that I wrote for them. And I use the excuse for timing and all that stuff, but a lot of it's just self-esteem. Like it was hard to write the song, or it was easier to write the song than to say the words. But then once I write the song, like once again with the whole letting people know I could sing, kind of felt arrogant or I don't know, self-centered for writing the song or presenting it to them. I don't know, it's weird how it worked like that. But things are changing. That's the good news. Things are changing. The big 2 things to really realize, and that I'm working on realizing, I'm not a finished product, but I'm working on it. So I'll take that as a step in the right direction. There's nothing wrong with taking pride in your strength. It's something I've kind of misinterpreted early on in my childhood development, and just growing up in general, and maybe society plays a part in that a little bit too. But you shouldn't be ashamed of who you are, even with strengths. In fact, you should be grateful when you hear a comment. You shouldn't feel guilty or ashamed about it. You should feel grateful. You made someone's day. They enough that they brought it to your attention that you did something well. And if someone brings you negative comments, ignore them. Sometimes they're jealous. Sometimes it's just a difference in opinion. Who cares what they think? It's a hard one. Like I said, it's easy to acknowledge. It's easy to accept. it's hard to apply. The comments one is a little easier, but the negativity, ignoring it, there is a certain threshold that you have to build up over time. Um, and then also, as far as me, I just gotta accept me for me, and that goes for anyone else who suffers from low self-esteem. Um, we're all human. Nobody's perfect. That's the reality. Nobody's perfect. Um, and you just gotta accept yourself, flaws and all. There's nothing wrong with having flaws, and there's nothing wrong with showing weakness. Um, I'm getting tired of this kind of general idea from the society, as I guess you could say, uh, that showing your emotions or admitting a flaw or talking about a flaw somehow makes you weak, and that's completely a joke in my opinion. Um, you know how much more strength it takes to come out and expose a weakness of yourself or expose a flaw than it does to cover it up? Or do you know how much harder it is to publicly express your emotion than to bottle it up? Um, that's a big issue with not just our country, well, our society as a whole. It's kind of a global thing, but really our country as a whole, it's a big problem to more internationally focused or nationally focused here. Um, and it's really causing problems, not just for me. It's causing problems for many people. That stigma, uh, and I think we're getting a little bit better as a society, breaking certain things like guys not being able to show emotion. It's slowly opening it up. Um, so I guess things are going in the right way a little bit, but not as fast as I'd like them to. Not as fast as they should be going, in my opinion. Um, but just know that if you do express something that's vulnerable of yourself, that's not a weakness. It actually takes more courage to openly say something like that than to try covering it up with the tough guy or the I'm emotionless kind of thing. Everyone has emotions. Everyone has weaknesses. Nothing wrong with saying them. Nothing wrong with expressing them. With that being said, this one went a little bit longer than I thought, but hope you guys got something out of it. Feel free to leave any comments or likes or shares with this, and subscribe if you haven't on my YouTube and Facebook channel. That's Andy's Chomping at the Bit. So have a great day, and I will talk to you guys again tomorrow.